Hi, good morning for the West Coast. Good afternoon for those joining from Europe. This is Alina and Nicolas from Chili Piper, and we're here to tell you our story, which is a very unconventional one from the start, and of course about funding and the $53 million that we've raised to date. So that should be an interesting session, and I will look for your comments and your questions, and as we go along, I'll maybe answer some of that as well. So as I said, we are a bit unconventional in that we are both partners in life and at work. And as you might all know, during COVID, you had to stay very close to your spouses at home, and some of you raising children. So you can imagine what that could look like in real life if you were together 24/7. You have to have a very good working relationship, and that's something that we had from the beginning. So for us, it was quite natural to start a business together.
So let's go and tell the story of our business.
Let's do it. I will see if I can start presentation. Okay. So far for us, we've noticed that the bigger the check in our bank account, the bigger of our understanding of the market and the platform that we're building. And we actually started in 2016. At the beginning, the first 3 years, we bootstrapped. We actually sold our house. We sold everything that we owned and put everything into Chili Piper. And started, I'm going to talk about our series A and B and the seed as well. We've gone remote from day one. So even before COVID, we were all on Zoom. And that's because Nicolas and I, we travel a lot. And that's a picture from our first company trip to India. And imagine now we have 175 employees. Our company trips are a little bit different. And let's talk about what we do.
So we serve what we call inbound conversion. If you think about the way marketing works these days, most people find the information through their friends on their network. And then they form an opinion and come to a vendor's website. And it's critical at that time that the vendor engage as fast as possible. So in the old days, vendors would put a form and somebody would request a demo and they get thank you page, and somebody would call them maybe the day after. That is no longer possible. You have to move fast. Our solution upon a form submission, route qualifies and book a meeting with the sales team. So who are our customers? Quickly, so that you understand the background. We actually have pretty much the who's who of tech.
All the cool SaaS companies are using Chili Piper. We have Airbnb and Spotify and I guess now Meta.
So here's a curve of our revenue growth and funding. So since we are here to talk about how to grow to 100 million and how VC funding can help, we bootstrapped for 3 years. We actually passed a couple of million in revenues on Bootstrapped. The original idea of bootstrapping was that we wanted to make sure that we build a viable business. So we thought if we get too much funding, we won't know for a while. So that was the idea. And after that, when we would talk to VCs, we never got the valuation we were expecting. We did get some interest, but never the valuation we expected. So we are going to talk about why that was, and why in the early days we failed to understand where we were, in our view, mispriced, and how that changed as we went along. But as you can tell, obviously we are a believer in funding. You can see how our growth has been positively impacted by these VC events that we've gone through in the last couple of years.
I guess one of the things that we didn't put here on the slide is that there's also some secondary, which is very nice for funders, but we don't include that in our funding. So we saw, as part of our fundraising journey, which was nonetheless a little bit of an interesting, with some interesting twists, these are the 3 things that we learned that we wanted to share with you. One is about reference points that the VCs that we talked with had about our market and about our industry. Second is how they looked at our metrics at different stages and how we adjusted for that, and how our thesis and VC's thesis kind of come together in a very short 15-minute presentation that founders and venture capitalists had at the beginning.
So the first part is the reference points. So it's just the way the brain works, that when something new comes up, you need to assimilate that new knowledge. You need to bring in the corpus of knowledge that you have around the space. In other words, look at all the reference points that are going to help you understand what this new knowledge is about. So that's the theory. In practice, when we started our business, and as I mentioned, it's all about routing and qualifying leads on the web. But once we qualify a route, there's a calendar that shows up for booking. And so that calendar is the most visible part of our solution. So VCs would look at it and say, oh, you have a calendar. Also, you could do a Calendly. And but you don't do as many things as Calendly does. So you special version of Calendly. So you must be very narrow. And the fact that we were actually solving a much bigger problem than the Calendly problem was obscured by that reference point. And we actually, as a result, got offers that were always underpriced compared to our expectations. Because, of course, if you think it's a small and narrow market, then you're not going to give a right valuation. Things started changing around COVID, when more people stayed at home, and it became more of an imperative for every company to optimize their sales process, and to make sure that they don't lose any leads in the process. That meant that we signed up even more visible companies, and that VCs started understanding the key part of our product in the inbound process. And next thing, they actually came inbound. I'm going to mention that in the third part. With a completely different reference point. The reference point was about the importance of inbound and the importance of inbound conversion and how we keep part of this. So as you can see in the slide, if we wield 6 cents and the account-based marketing helping generate intent and demand, and then Chili Piper helping convert the inbound. So the reference point changed completely, and that's completely changed our valuations. In effect, that's what triggered our journey in the venture capital world, because all of a sudden we became fundable at a valuation that was acceptable to us.
On the metrics front, at the beginning, our metrics did not look great, and there was a reason for it. We did not look at the typical VC lenses to our business. We were looking at making our business economically viable. So because we were investing our own money and we were not, we were bootstrapping, we looked at dollar net revenue retention. So when a big company would come in, we would make sure that they're treated very well, and that they stay with us, and that we focus all our attention on the bigger companies. When a smaller company would come, their complexities would not require us to pay extra special attention. So our logo churn was not great at all. We would actually, we lost, I don't know, like half of our logos we would lose, and we didn't care because our net revenue retention dollar-wise was great. So it was not a focus. But when VCs came and they said, what, you're losing half of your companies, you're like a leaky bucket, we don't even want to look at you. So then we thought, okay, that's something that is quite fixable, in that we introduce some different rules in place for us to segment that and take care of it. The way we did it is we introduced a platform fee. So if somebody was really committed to installing Chili Piper, would pay that upfront platform fee. As a result, Chili Piper had a higher barrier to entry for smaller businesses. So our logo churn on that department would go down. That basically fixed completely our logo churn problem. We now have virtually no logo churn. and we kept our net revenue retention. So all of a sudden we became attractive from their lenses, even though for us we were already winning. They saw us very differently.
I remember VC looking at our numbers and say we can't invest in a leaky bucket, as Alina said, and our net revenue retention was already north of 140%. So we were puzzled when I say leaky bucket. What leaky bucket? We 140%. But then we look at a logo churn, and we were around 40% churn annual. And we said, well, we never paid attention to that because these little companies that signed up and leave are irrelevant to our bank account. So it's a metric that, but going forward, we understood that eventually you want to clean up all your numbers and all the health of your business. So we did, and our logo churn is now in the single digit and keep improving. So it's now at a place where the next round of VCs they'll be very impressed, and they will no longer call us a leaky bucket. So that's the second part, the metrics.
We're also right now we're paying a lot of attention to obviously to all of these numbers, and we put in place things like Snowflake and Mode and a team that specialized in helping us tracking all of these numbers that are quite different at their different stages of fundraising. For me, it was a very interesting learning journey, but it's super exciting to see how at different stages different things matter, and how to make it all a puzzle to make sure that everything improves in the right direction.
Another piece of the churn, actually, back to the metrics, is the lifetime value, because the logo churns affects the lifetime value. If you lose a lot of logos, then it is assumed that the lifetime value of a customer is lower, because there's a high probability that you lose that customer. So there was another piece where VCs would tell us how your lifetime value is very low, and that makes no sense. We have these companies like Intuit keep growing, RingCentral keep adding licenses. How can you think that our lifetime value is low? So again, then you fix these numbers. It's all the details, and that takes you to Series B and Series C with very clean numbers.
I think that another thing that I forgot to mention in here was that the presentation of the numbers also matter in how you segment and how you look at the different cohorts, and how the different cohorts are being affected by different paths, because one single number doesn't tell the full story. And segmentation matters a lot. At least in our case, it did, because our numbers looked very differently on different cohorts. And the ones we were focusing our attention, the numbers were perfect. On the other cohorts, not so perfect. And it's important when those numbers are being presented that they have a footer note explaining how the different lenses of looking at the data, since everybody's has different appreciation of the same number.
Okay, the last and third piece is the dream, also known as the thesis. So what has happened really to us, we in 2019 and 20, we'd kind of given up on raising money. We said we're just going to bootstrap and keep growing the company on money. And the interest came inbound shortly after the COVID crisis, the beginning of the COVID crisis. And what happened is that some smart VCs formulated the thesis on this inbound movement and the fact that we're a key part of this inbound movement. So we didn't actually write the thesis and went to pitch it. Venture capitalists came up with the same thesis as we had on their own, came inbound and says, this is where we think you matter a lot and how you're going to grow. And so that was the easiest funding ever. As I said, they came inbound. They were very keen on doing the deal. For reasons we understood, we were aligned on valuation because we saw the same opportunity. And the deal happened very fast. That was our A round. So that the ideal scenario for any company as you grow is that if the market has now formed a thesis that is aligned with how you want to run your business, we now expanding our thesis, and quite frankly, we see that the market isn't there yet. So there are some new developments on how we are going to approach our business that is not well understood. And so what we've learned with Alina is to be patient, right? If we I mean, of course, sometimes we can be wrong and we'll react quickly. But if we have a strong conviction that our thesis is right, it's a bit futile to try to teach that vision to investors. If they don't feel it in their guts, they're just not going to move. So what we find is that it's better to wait until everybody sees things the same way, because eventually in markets, enough facts happen that a pattern emerges, and the investors can see the same story as what you've been seeing all along. I think the idea that you can just sell ice to Eskimos or send to nomads, and like have this vision and go and pitch the vision, is not the real world. I mean, maybe if you were Elon Musk, but even I remember talking to my friend Steve Jefferson, who founded Elon Musk in the early days, and he kept saying, you know what, I don't even know why I invested in Tesla, but Elon was so driven. I think you can do that for Elon Musk. For the rest of us, we just need to be patient. We need to build the fact, to wait until the market sees the thesis that is behind your business, and then the deals happen much more naturally.
And I think that one final thing on this note is that I personally was quite skeptical at the beginning of raising funds altogether, because I was concerned that it would pollute our ability to be more nimble and be economically efficient and cash efficient. I was concerned that it will just pollute my my operating mode. But what happened is I was quite impressed of the help that we got from all our partners, from Flashpoint, from Tiger Global, Gradient, and Base 10. It did not pollute us. It just made us be bolder in our decisions and grow faster than we would have otherwise. And I just wish I had that information sooner, so that I would be less skeptical of getting funding help.
Absolutely. On a positive note, it is true that the VCs have helped us tremendously. They've let us operate the way we want and run the business the way we want, never interfering in a way, always being helpful. So in the end, it has worked out really well between Flashpoint, Gradient, Base 10, and Tiger Global. So reach out to us, come to your website, book a meeting with us. We can't wait to engage with more of you guys.
Thanks so much, Alina and Nicolas. Fantastic story. Love to see that journey and the success. Great lessons shared there with the SaaStock audience. And so thank you so much for taking the time to share that today. We hope to see you at SaaStock, in person next year. And who knows, maybe you'll be crossing 100 million ARR at that point.
We'll try. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you for inviting us.
Have a great day. Thank you very much.